Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Christopher Daniels, and this is your 5-Minute Ministry Mondays. Just your weekly dose of irreverent spiritual humor where I take a theme and deliver a sermon about said theme in 5 minutes or less. Now, this week I had a little bit of help from my friend Riley, who asked the question, how do we process anger when the situation is outside of our control? Which I think is a fantastic topic, and I cannot wait to delve into it in a sermon I've called Anger We Hardly Knew Thee. Now, I have my sophisticated timekeeping device, which will hopefully keep me on task and honest and humble to the situation. And I have 5 minutes on the clock, and Godspeed. I think one of the biggest shifts in my personal development was the acknowledgement that I have very little control over any number of situations in my life, especially when they involve other people. And really what I have control over is how I respond and how I show up. I've learned in my life that in general, people are afraid of their emotions. They're afraid of feeling them. They're afraid of being owned by them. So we tend to run, hide, escape from our emotions and do any number of things to numb ourselves from the full pain of experiencing those emotions. I knew for myself once I became a preacher that I actually had shame and embarrassment if I were to feel anything that was not love and light, rainbows and unicorns 24/7. But you know what? We are spiritual beings on a human path, and sometimes we have bad days, and that is okay because we are here to experience the full gamut of human emotions. And I know you said in your comments that sometimes your friends are uncomfortable with your feelings and expressing them, and they say things like, let it go, just get over it, which I find generally to be not helpful. But we are a society of fixers, and so when people express emotions, often it brings levels of discomfort within the other party, and they don't want to be there because they don't want to feel their own emotions. So you're not okay with where you're at, and I want you to be somewhere other than you are. So I'm going to fix it. Whatever it is, we're going to fix it. And sometimes that's not helpful. Sometimes you need time to sit in the emotion and experience it fully. And not everyone is comfortable sitting in your muck. So find the people who actually can. And it doesn't mean that your friends are bad. It doesn't mean that you should stop being friends with them. It just means that when it comes to the big stuff, when it comes to being raw and vulnerable in front of another human being, not everyone is equipped to handling that because they might be in so much fear in dealing with their own emotions that they're not capable of helping you with yours. So really identify the people in your life that can help you process your anger in a healthy manner. Now, after you have felt the anger, and I mean feel it, taste it. Where does it show up in the body? What colors are associated with it? If anger had a voice, what would anger say? And if it starts speaking, let it speak in a dramatic monologue. And maybe you write it all down, and maybe there's an interpretive dance to what anger is feeling right now. What I mean is find a healthy expression of anger, because anger is not bad. But when we use our anger in a destructive manner, whether it's toward ourselves or to another being or toward this planet in general, that is when it becomes unhealthy. And that's when we need to alchemize our anger in a manner that is healthy for us and for everyone around us. So here's a couple of different options. I highly recommend a practice of Tai Chi, yoga, meditation, Qigong. And what these practices entail is movement, breathwork, mantras, mindfulness to actually move the energy in and around and through you. These practices teach us to stay grounded in our true authentic center so that no matter what happens, the tumultuousness of life, that we can stay centered, balanced, and in harmony with what is without the need to change it. Next, anger is just an expression of fear. So I would ask the question, what are you afraid of in this moment? And I would keep asking that question until you boil it down like Aunt Sally's bland potato dish that she brings to every single family get-together to its basic form. And usually what we're afraid of is someone pulling love from us. That's usually what we're afraid of. We're afraid of not being liked, loved, affirmed, or accepted by our parents, by our partners, by our friends, by society, by the world at large, whatever it may be. And so often we make decisions based upon our fear. So if you're experiencing anger, what are you afraid of? Who are you afraid of pulling love from you? Or Also, think about the expectations that you might actually have toward this situation. So you say that you have relinquished control and that you acknowledge that you don't have control over it. But if you have expectations, then have you really relinquished control, or have you just convinced yourself that you relinquished control? So let go of the expectations that you may have about how a situation should have played out. Now, I'm a student of real love, and my real love coach is always talking about how really when anger comes up, it's not really having to do with the situation that we're currently experiencing. It's usually because that situation has ignited a wound within us from our early childhood, usually from the time that someone first pulled love. So then identify the wound that it's bringing up for you. Is it a wound of worthlessness? Is it a wound of invisibility? Is it a wound of not being good enough? Whatever the wound is. And then in real love, it's really about getting love around that wound so that you can heal it. Because if you don't address the root cause of why that wound is there in the first place, then you're just going to continue experiencing this in any number of situations in your own life. So allow yourself to feel anger. Develop a healthy ritual or practice around moving the energy and alchemizing that anger. And then also begin the process of breaking down that anger and identify what you're afraid of. Now, if you have any questions about some fabulous yoga classes, I might know a fantastic teacher. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I cannot wait for next week. This is such a joy to be able to do this. I'm going to go now, and I'm going to see my godson, who is the love and joy of my life right now. So have a fantastic rest of your evening.